Um, oh, did you hear that?
I did. You go ahead though. What were you
No,
saying?
I just heard recording in progress. So, hey, good. Yeah, I think I always find it interesting. I think I said this last week that like as I'm older, I make assumptions. Oh, a six may mean, is that really bad or is that just over good or whatever? So for me, so explaining my six, it's I've had today's Wednesday already, so I think I've had five or six just challenging stuff
Yep.
with which is life. Like it's what it is. We don't live in a bubble. It's not perfect. We didn't win even if you won the $70 million lottery or whatever the biggest one in Canada was,
Yep.
you still have troubles.
Oh,
Money,
absolutely.
money's nice. I wouldn't mind 70 million. I could help a lot of people, but it doesn't cover a lot of things. But yeah, so I actually don't mind having challenges per se. I don't want to be like out of control, like health or mental health. I felt a little bit tired at the beginning of the week, so mentally tired. So we'll talk a bit about that later. But like, how do you take care of yourself when you're mentally tired, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's tough, right, in the winter because the days are short and I don't know, it's just I don't go out. I have one appointment a week. That's the only time I have to actually wear pants. And so that would be Wednesdays from 5 to 7. So I really sort of hibernate. I'm so glad that I have a job where I can interact with people, whether it's on Zoom or through my other job, which is like um, call center work. So I get to connect, but you don't have that face to face. But I can see how, it can end up being long, dark days for people. And they need to put some effort into, just lifting themselves up, if you will. Right. I think that's really important. Absolutely. For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think again the whole idea of this is to in a community setting to help. We all probably have resources. It's funny again or interesting, I guess, is that we all have Google Doctor for um, a whole bunch of things, and I think I'm gonna give that a 6 out of 10 because information is good. Good information is good,
Yeah.
but we you know, in this culture, we didn't have 10 or 20 years ago, like the opportunity, this information.
Right.
But now, because information is so freely shared, now it comes down to, you know, great information, good information, average. And you know that, Michelle, with you, with working with wellness, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody can be an expert, right?
Oh, absolutely. And then, yeah, the bottom of that list is the opposite of truth, which is,
Yeah.
it's so true. And it's one of the things that we run into all the time is people looking for the quick fix. You have to do the work. Sorry, mic drop. You know what I mean?
Right.
No matter what it is that you're doing. And it's so funny as you're saying that back in our day when we were younger, you had to look for somebody who had the whole set of encyclopedias, right? Or whatever, where now, it's a pro and a con to have all this access to information at our fingertips. And it's funny. And I'm sure well, I know the girls don't live there, but like when Alice comes here, she's just 9, my granddaughter, and she watches a lot of YouTube. And it's so interesting because I'm always trying to just reflect with her the fact that just because somebody has a YouTube channel doesn't mean they're a voice of authority because they give terrible advice, right? So sometimes I hear her in the other room and I end up stopping what I'm doing, coming in, and just getting her to just pick a bit different channel or maybe talking about what they're talking about, which usually is way too mature for a 9-year-old. So we have a lot of things that we can't control that we have to sort of take control over. So we're watching what we're exposed to.
Yeah. One of my good friends, a couple of years ago, he likened the information or technology age. He goes, it's like going into a buffet,
Yeah.
and and it, and it's not. We're not saying the old days are better than the new. Like that's not what we're saying. But if you go to a buffet and you're hungry, and instead of 20 items out, they have 60.
Mm,
Every time you look at something, oh, I want that. Oh, I want that. So, so in especially in a technological world where
yep,
there's a lot of coercion and manipulation.
yep.
Like even we'll talk about AI down the road. That might be a fun topic. But so the good thing in community is I believe we'll have people that have some expertise in what we're going through. I believe I have some, and you have some, and other people will. So, but you share it in a group, and the most important thing is not telling people, what to do. It's saying, this is what I think or I experienced. And the thing I was going to say before we get going, and maybe we'll start off with this every time, Michelle, is
Sure.
feel free. I want to encourage anybody who's watching, and if you're watching the video later, you're not watching it live.
Yep.
Feel free to like ask questions, and Michelle's going to talk about some of the questions. And like, we can't answer everything, but like we're not just trying to tell people what to do.
Oh,
We want to share from our experience and share from that, but we want to collaborate a little bit. So Michelle's going to head some of that up now. You've got some of the things you wrote down. Okay.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, to add on to that, even watching it in like when it's on the page after we're all done, feel free, like tell us how your week is. Add your comments and everything because we're going to respond. It also notifies us, and we are aware that Wednesday at 8 o'clock or 5 o'clock Pacific time isn't going to always work for everybody, and that's okay. I do want to acknowledge how thrilled I am with the interactions on the page. I couldn't have asked for a better turnout, if you will, to see people that are sharing on there, sharing their own tips and tricks. So that's where we're going to start today. So I got my tablet over here, and I'm just going to sort of review some of the posts that really stood out to me. Like I'm not going to review, all of them, especially like some little cute videos and whatnot. But there were some great posts, just of memes and that sort of thing. But where's some that really stood out to me? This one really resonated with me that Jerry Lynn posted on there. You are not a burden if you are sad often. You are not a burden if you are living with constant anxiety. You are not a burden if you need a lot of reassurances. You are not a burden if you reach out for help. You are not a burden if you're fighting with your negative thoughts. And I think part of the mindset is, we beat ourselves up, and it's so important to realize that you're not alone, and the people around you, even though, and we'll talk about how hard it is to ask for help another time, but sometimes we get that in our head and we forget that the people that love us hard, and they're going to be there, right? Um, and they're going to step up and they're going to help us, which is absolutely awesome. So, again, thank you to everybody who added to the page of different things. Another one I want to read you because I really want you to wrap your head around this. And this one really resonated with me, and I shared it on More Than This page. And it's really a simple concept, but so very powerful. And it starts with you. If every single person who has liked you in your lifetime were to light up on a map, it would create the most glitteringly beautiful network you could imagine. So just think of that, what that would look like. Then add in the strangers you've been kind to, the people you made laugh or inspired along the way. And that star bright network of you would be an impressive sight to hold. Like, think about every door you open for somebody, when you let that one guy cut in front of you because you're a really nice person, right, Tom? The driving thing, that's another star. So, that one, and there's more to it. You can go on the page and read it, but that really, like, the visual, I just thought was so amazing because, again, quite often we feel so alone, and you're really not. Like, you never know who you're affecting. Then Nadine, who is also absolutely fabulous, she put on some great tips for depression about having a shower, not a bath, have a shower, moisturizing, putting on clean clothes. It's so interesting. Like I was saying, I only have 2 hours a week I need to dress up, I dress up. I put makeup on. I get, because it's like my date with my 50 members, right? So she put some really good tips on there, and these posts aren't going anywhere, so make sure you check that out. So that was really good. What else was on here that really stood out to me? Some great other posts. Tom posted one. Tom, you know Tom, great guy. Be the person who still tries after failure, after frustration, after disappointment, after exhaustion, after heartache. Be the person who musters up the courage to believe that a new attempt can manifest a new outcome. Be the person who still tries. Think of all the things you've accomplished, all, the struggles over the years, the different things that you thought you'd never get through, and then you end up that you're getting through it and you survive. We're not victims, we're survivors, right? We all are. So I thought that one really jumped out at me as well. And again, I see Callie shared on there. Thank you, Callie. You're absolutely amazing. Krista came on, shared how beautiful we all are, in case nobody told us. I love that. Oh, and here was a question that I asked, and I really enjoyed the answers to this. So my question was, if you could give your younger self some advice, what would it be? And did you answer this one, Tom? I'll let you think
No.
about that while I read these answers. Jerry Lynn said, stay away from the booze and dope. Very good. Angela said, put money away while you live at home. It's a great idea. Brian, this is what he shared. Don't compare yourself to others. Your strengths and weaknesses are your own, and you have your own path to pave. Enjoy the ride without looking at how others are paving their way. Know that everyone has a struggle that is unknown to the naked eye. At times you may feel there's no way out. Brighter days are ahead. That smile and goofiness that people make fun of will one day be what people love most about you. Tracy said, you are worthy, you are smart, and there are hundreds of opportunities for you. And then Jocelyn said, go to college earlier in my 20s. That one made me laugh, because if I would have went to college in my 20s, total waste of money. I had to go to college in my 30s as just for shits and giggles, let's say, as a mature person. And I was committed. So I thought that was really good. And thank you, everybody, for sharing. That was really awesome. So, Tom, no pressure. What's your answer?
It's hard to say one, but there's lots, right? Like so I'm thinking of our wellness, and when we say mental health includes the holistic part of our being, and includes our our physical health and emotional health, and so I wish, like, one of my biggest struggles, excuse me, and part of it is too, I'm going to be vulnerable here, so whatever. Like I said to Michele too, I never want to be vulnerable for Michele, but I just believe that helps in the way we work together. But I'm a very compassionate person, and I'm very I give lots of stuff away to the point where which is a good thing, but to the point where I'm not, like, I wish I was more responsible in that way. And so I'm not saying that I wouldn't be less kind and it's all about money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as an example, now, like 2 years ago, my wife and I sold our townhouse. And the good thing I did out of it is I bought a house in Alberta, northern Alberta, that my daughter and granddaughters live in, right?
Yeah.
And then I, did a whole bunch of stuff for people and myself too. I'm not like, I didn't save. And now my son's going to university. And I'm like, oh, we have some money away for him, but what he wants to do in university may cost $100,000.
Yeah.
And I wish 10 years ago I could have told myself even to put away $50.
Yeah. Yeah.
For his education. So, and it's not that it's about money, because I'm still the type of guy that if I feel like I want to go, like, show kindness to somebody, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But I wish I would do both. So
Right. Right.
There's my
Absolutely.
answer.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And like all of our questions, there's no right or wrong answer. I think for mine, it would be, so I don't really have anything specific like that. If I think about my younger self, I think this too shall pass. That statement alone, because there was a lot of times that I went through like a whole long year period where I felt like I had a black cloud that followed me around and life was just the shits. And apparently I felt like I deserved it and it wasn't going to get better. And I had to myself personally blow that cloud away off and just change my thinking. But there were times where, yeah, I was so down and depressed that I really felt stuck. So, and I use that statement myself, this too shall pass, when I'm in different moments, even now, of struggle, no matter what it is. So, yeah, great sharing, everybody. Thank you for that. Do appreciate it. What else was on here? Oh, Jerry Lynn also posted something, and I'm not going to read it, but it was really good. How to change your negative thinking. So some really good tips in there, and it does talk about the main causes of negative thinking, fear, and learned behavior. So that might tie in with what you're going to talk about in a little bit. And then actually that brings me up to that article, Tom. So I'm going to pass it over to you. That was
Good.
the phobias or persistent and extreme fears. Oh, how phobias, I can't make a sentence apparently. How phobias or persistent and extreme fears are treated. Go.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, I love. I've always loved learning, but I've gone through periods in my life where it's, it's I'm learning something, but then there's something where I feel like I'm really learning, right? And I believe the reason I brought up fear or phobia um, is to me when I do some one-on-one counseling, when we get to that point, it's one of those things where always feels that it's in the back of our brain. So things like having a fear of spiders. I don't know here in the group. Let me go back to the group page. Who has a fear of spiders? I know my daughter does. My granddaughters do, and I think my wife does. My son, like, I don't like spiders. They look weird, but we're talking of fear.
Yeah.
Like we're running out of the room, and so a perception. And Michelle and I are going to talk about this another time too, because I got a whole bunch of notes, things I want to talk about down the road. I was talking to her. I said, what's the difference between perception and perspective?
Yeah.
So think about that, write it down. We'll talk about it another time. But one of the phobia courses I've taken, the psychologist talks to somebody who's got a fear of spiders, and then they open a book with a page with a spider on. The person freaks, goes back and freaking out, right? And he had permission to do it, by the way. He wasn't like freaking them out on purpose. But in it, he says like this is a piece of paper. The paper can't hurt you.
Right.
So what is it? And so he goes through a little bit on how to manage through that, right? So fears, like take away fears of height. I'm not a height person. I don't want to go stand on top of a dam, or I'm not doing the CN Tower ever again in my life.
No.
But um, and if I want to dig into fear of that, I could like there's probably more under the surface with that, because we as humans we have the ability to overcome our fear. Like we with the article I shared, like if we're willing to do the work, I'm working on myself physically. I think I'm down 40 pounds. I want to lose another 40, 50, right? And I'm on it because I battled cancer years ago, stomach cancer. And so what I've learned to do with my fear of, oh, I'll never get there, or my fear of self-shame, which I might bring up with fear a little bit in a few minutes, but I need to take the slow and steady approach. You know what? I'm not going to overcome this in a day. It's going to take some work. If I get out of focus, reset. Reset's one of my favorite words. Reset. You had a crappy day. Like I had a 6 out of 10 so far this week. That doesn't mean tomorrow's a 6 out of 10.
Right.
And I also believe that we like positive thinking is really important. So let me put that in a ball, put it over here, right? But positive thinking in itself is like there's more to wellness. As an example, again, somebody years ago when I was in high school, so 40 some, 50, 40 some years ago, I remember this book because we had books back then. Who knew, right?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and in this book, it gave this example because I liked psychology and people back then, right? Then I had my journey in my life. But it was this thing of this guy standing, the story was this guy standing on the 401 and his positive thinking. It's middle of 401, he's going, his eyes are closed. He goes, a car won't hit me, a car won't hit me, a car won't hit me, a car won't hit me. And then of course the jokes start hit him, right? So we live in this tension, but if we don't like it's hard to walk out the wellness you want without believing in the wellness you want, right? So go back to fear. A lot of fear can be attached to anxiety or stress and those things, right? The spider fear I use as my daughter who's on this and probably listen to this and she'll either laugh at me or challenge me or have to buy her something or whatever I'll have to do, right? But her fear of spiders, I believe, was transferred into her girls, them having a fear of spiders because they saw mom being fearful of spiders. So some of these behaviors are learned behaviors, and then some of them are caused on, like, say, somebody who's older and not in a relationship. Your fear is loneliness. You don't want to be alone, and which is fair. Like that's a fair fear, right? That's not as much as a phobia. So part of it is how do we get to a place of with ourselves of going, okay, what do I need to do in the short term, in the current, in the moment to feel better? So breathing techniques we talked about. There's some certain things, showers, like all those things in the moment. Those are really good things. Foot bath, go to spas. I don't do some, but there's certain things we do that kind of change our focus on whatever is overwhelming us. But we will purpose again. This is long term. Creating a place where we can talk about, like, say you had a fear of somebody had a fear of spiders, use the obvious, and at some point you get to the point where you can say, I had a fear of spiders, or you can say, like, I've battled depression, mostly, definitely through cancer. The first year cancer surviving, I was bedridden, right, and I was severely depressed, like really bad depressed, like really get me off this train depressed, right? If I could have found a way without hurting people. So I still have the not the ghost things. I'm trying to think how to say it. I still have the echo of a situation will happen in the day that can make me want to go that way. Like, not, I don't go to the deepest. I don't go to 10 out of 10 on the bad part, but all of a sudden something triggers me and I'm tired and I want to give up and this is it. And we have so many of those things in our day that we have, that's why we're doing this. We have to learn how to navigate through that. So the short-term stuff's really important. So if you need to take care of yourself for a day, this is why a lot of work have a wellness day. You know what? You need a day. You don't have to fake you're sick. Don't take a vacation day, have a wellness day, right? So
it's so good that companies are waking up to that too, because healthy employees show up. It's in their best interest. So that's a great thing.
yeah, and in it too. Yeah, I mean, there's studies that will say, well, if you've got if an employee feels taken care of, and on these things, some of them have my work has a small gym in there. And they actually have got stats will show that instead of like halfway through the day getting 60% from an employee, they're getting like 75. So it's an investment. Yeah. It's a value, but it's returned, right? But let's go to that sheet.
Okay.
And so it's phobia, symptoms, types, and treatment. So, and the other thing too, if you see me looking down lots, I make notes. Michelle says something or I'll see something, right? So Michelle, quick question for you. Give give us something that you would say is a fear of yours.
So I've always been fearful of, and this is way before I started having health issues, fearful of drowning, or like not having access to air, but drowning specifically, is definitely one for me. Do you want me to share that article, Tom, or are you okay?
Yeah, yeah, you can share it in the group.
But do you want me to share it on the screen here?
Sure. Yeah, you
Okay.
can do that. I'm scrolling through it as we talk on my computer, my laptop. So
Okay. Yep. Go ahead. Keep talking,
yeah,
and I'll do
yeah,
that talking.
yeah. So if we look at fear, so as you show it, I'm going to go back to the page and see what people are asking or saying. So if you look at fear, like and see again, remember I said it's our presumption. Like I could use the word, I said to Michelle last week after our meeting, the word love. Okay, I love this movie. Oh, I love my grandchild. Oh, I'd love to win $1 million. Oh, love, like whatever, right? Oh, I'd love to go skiing, skydiving, whatever, right? So we have these words that go across, that have different measurement of meaning. And so fear is the same way. So to have this idea of fear, so you mentioned the fear of drowning or not having air, suffocating, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that's a huge, like that's another one of the big ones too, right? So so do you think, or what's your thoughts on the difference from fear, like that fear, to say something that we would call a phobia?
Um, well, what do you mean? Like the phobia symptoms that are right in front of me? Is that what you mean?
You can cheat, but yeah, you can cheat. You can cheat if you want. So what I was saying for you, so using an example, cheater. No, you don't have to cheat. A fear. If we go, oh, I'm fearful of what Michelle just said.
Yeah.
When it turns into a phobia, so it goes from, like, say an 8 to a 6 or 4, whatever, measuring down 10, like is good, right? Then people like that avoid going on a boat. They avoid water. They avoid a pool.
I'm
Does that
sort
make
of
sense?
like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is sort of interesting. I think I have that phobia because my mom, or the fear, because my mom, that adopted me, always told me that she didn't like going on water, that sort of thing. When we were kids, anybody in this area would remember Boblo Island. It was an amusement park on an island, and she seriously wanted my dad to drive there and not take the ferry across, but she did, and we had a great time. Fast forward to 19, I should know this, 1993, my adopted dad did drown, but that didn't, it didn't make my fear worse. Like I still go on booze cruises and that sort of thing, but I'm just very cautious of my surroundings. And I try to talk to myself in my head that, I'm not in that scenario or whatever. I'm not repeating history, all that sort. So that self-talk, of like, am I lying to myself? That's something I ask myself a lot. Helps me sort of put that at the back. Is that helpful? Did I answer?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Well, it's helpful because you're telling us about you. You're not telling us what to do, right? And the stuff that we share here is, these are professional people, and so we're just giving you information, right? And we can, like, again, with some of the people I work with, we can, like, we have, like, I feel confident enough that Michelle, in our areas that we are working, that we can confidently give good advice. But even with counseling, my counseling style isn't to tell people what to do. It's basically to create this kind of bond with them, and we really, through spending the time and doing some of the work, we we self heal in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So we have to, because we live in a culture again. So give me a pill, I'll take it, this, do this, and do that. Like, you know, numb the brain. Like, I've done lots of work with people walking through addiction. I think I mentioned last time, and people across the gamut of young and old. One of the guys I was working with, they were in a rehab program. One of the guys working with was a lawyer from Alberta. This is a couple of years back. Was hugely successful, and he got into a car accident. It was substance abuse and alcohol, and he had to go into a program. And he came to BC partly because of his pride, because he didn't want anybody to know him. And he's a lawyer, right? So I think he did 30 days. And so I spent time with him, and he would, I'm using an example, would never acknowledge the need of needing to overcome this fear. His fear is being out of control. So he was, again, he won't be on here. He was very narcissistic, different relationships, marriage ended, kids estranged, right? And very successful, like lots of money, right? But in the days I worked with him, and then he left the program and went back. He did the program out of not wanting to go to jail or lose his license, I think it was, right? And so now, in my experience, a guy like him, have that experience, whatever. And then all of a sudden, his fear of losing control. So I've got to control and manipulate everything, right? And my experience tells me, because he didn't address it and take the work, and it takes a long time. It may not be substance use by driving. Something will come back because the way he's medicating himself to deal with life, it's the odds are like winning a lottery. It's very unlikely, right? So part of what it is, we're working through fear and phobia, like Michele said, this to be able to look back and go, okay, well, I think this maybe happened with my mom or my dad, where we said saying something, and that's usually the way it is. Walking into a dark room and somebody scares you, right? All of these little things, right? And they're small in a way, and some of them they don't control us, but the ones that cross into a phobia, where we're kind of managing our life around this, those are things, in my experience, I think we need to get help with. Because I don't like spiders. Like I sprayed my place with peppermint oil, vinegar, whatever water, right? No spiders here. No spiders here. My wife and I separate. She lives in a different place. We're still like kind of together, not together. Anyway, she hates them, and her place is a bit older, so they have spiders. So she just goes, oh, I hate it, and she freaks out. And I'm like, well, spray peppermint oil, and that'll be your first step.
Exactly. Exactly right.
So, and that's the same with us mentally. If we recognize fear of being alone, or a fear like the common fears of like heights, anxiety, like heights and all those, put those on one side, but they'll usually lead into something that could be an anxiety or a stressor. And again, how we want to learn about ourselves, so then we know how to deal with ourselves, right?
Exactly. All research and development, and you're the product. Yep.
100%.
Exactly right. Very good. Awesome. Great
I'm
show.
trying to see if there's any questions on there. We've got a few people watching.
Welcome.
Nobody's asking questions, which is fine.
Okay.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So the other thing, if you go through the article, and I would encourage you to read it, if like learning about our stressors, anxiety or depression, these things, like this is a first step. Like starting this thing was a first step for me and Michele. And it's not about having millions of viewers and we're famous and we win awards at some award place in LA. Like that's not our goal. Our goal is we're both wired to help people. And basically, probably through our experience, and probably because we experienced help, right? So the whole idea of fear, one of the things we don't talk about, and this goes into social, not social anxiety, but anxiety in a basic, is there's a lot of times with working through getting counseling or mental health or mental wellness, is, and you said something earlier, Michele, it's our view of ourselves.
Yes.
right? And we might never say we hate ourselves. Some do in secret.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
if we, like Michelle's question was so great. What would you tell what would you tell yourself 10 years ago or 10 years before, right? There's a Matthew McConaughey has a great thing on, I don't know where it is. And he does it the opposite. He goes, what would you tell yourself 10 years in the future?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then how would you want to walk that out to be that person? Okay. So, so part of it is now is going, okay, I've got a chance. I'm not going to change it in a day, but I want to now be aware. Awareness is pretty big, right?
Yeah.
But self-doubt, the fear of, again, the spider one's too funny for me because of my family. My daughter said, "It'll kill me." But you see a spider, and you jump on a chair, or you do this, or you go to a different room, or you leave, whatever things are, right? And obviously, in Canada, I would bet, I could be wrong, there's probably not a spider in Canada, unless it's like a 10-foot spider somewhere we don't know about, like a Loch Ness spider, or there's not a spider that can kill us.
No, right.
They're,
Right.
they're ugly and creepy, but
Yeah.
but yeah, so part of it is the beginning step is to go, okay, I am worth enough to do the work, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So, and
Exactly.
that's a big fear to overcome,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm. Absolutely. That's right. And I think this is where, looking within and maybe, doing that, like me looking and like, why do I even have that? I had swimming lessons as a kid.
Yeah.
I had all sorts of, things that would not lead me to that. So it had to come from somewhere. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, just but, we talk in like the wellness industry about when you're having these conversations with self, you always need to do it when you're in a cold state. When you're in a hot state, you're emotional, right? You're grasping at straws or, whatever. But when it's you're in that calm, cold state, that's when you can really start to think and make those connections. And I think
Yeah.
as we get older, I think it gets a little easier.
Yeah, and I think like anything worthwhile takes work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and I listened. I was coming home. This is last year, I think. I was coming home from Alberta, seeing my granddaughters and my daughter, and it was me, my wife, and my son. And my 3 years ago, well, let's listen to this podcast, right? And the podcast, I think I said this to you, Michelle. The podcast was Dax Shepard. If you listen to podcasts, Dax Shepard is a famous comedian actor, been in a whole bunch of Hollywood movies, and it's his show. And he was interviewing Prince Harry,
Oh,
and it's a really good. Make a note of it. Really good interview because Dax talks about being like just an ordinary Joe, somehow gets discovered, goes into being an actor, making lots of money, and then substance abuse,
oh,
and talks about his journey, right? And just the hard stuff. He's not scared to talk about the hard stuff, which I really appreciate, right? And
absolutely.
and interviewing Prince Harry was talking about being not spoiled. What's your word for spoiled?
Entitled.
Entitled, right? And he talked about how he had to get out of there. He didn't speak unwell of the monarchy, but he said like they had a program. They were wanting me to be this person, to be like the right person, the right you know vocabulary, all this stuff, right? And he goes, I felt lost. So you have one guy, Dak, who's lost because of um, just thinking money and fame was going to deal with some deep seated issues.
Yep.
And again, the podcast, I don't get paid for the podcast, but check it out. It's so good.
Hmm.
But Prince Harry talks about being entitled, right? And he said, the best thing I did was to go to the Air Force. And I know some people that don't like him or not. I don't care, Megan. I don't know him. I try not to. I try to only have a small list of people I don't like certain personalities. They're usually famous people, but I'll leave that.
Same. Yeah.
But you've got these two people on different sides of the spectrum,
Yeah.
and needing to deal with self, like our true self. And it's not easy. Like I could talk so much about that, but becoming well, which is what our desire is, right?
Yeah.
Becoming well takes courage. It takes faith, which would be positive talk. Don't deny if you're having a crappy day. Don't deny it. You have a crappy day,
Oh, for
but
sure.
but don't don't be stuck under the bridge and stop believing in here, being silly here. Unicorn. Here for you, Michelle. Stop believing in tie dyes, unicorn, and rainbows. I
Ah,
was
it's
thinking of the tie dyes.
rainbow. Yeah, the tie-dye. Tie-dye for the win.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But you're right. I mean, I'm all about being positive, but I'm also all about being real. And you have
yeah,
to pair the two things together, right? You can't be, yeah, you can't be in denial that bad things happen, or that, you're going to have long days or crappy days, or, whatever. Or sometimes one of the things I tell my members is it's okay to lose your shit. Just don't unpack your bags and live there. Right.
100%.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, there's times where punching a pillow is okay, right? Or whatever, yelling, screaming, whatever that looks like. But there has to be an end. Get it out of your system. You are going to feel better, full fact,
Right.
right? You're absolutely going to feel better. But once it's over, yep, just you're all done. You feel better. Go have a nap. I think naps are important. I love to send myself for a nap. And I think, yeah, that's another thing that is important that we do. Self-care is not selfish. I will say that till the day I die.
Yeah, and here's the thing: the healthier we are, there we go. The healthier
Oh,
we
there we go.
are, it helps us be healthier for those around us, those that we love.
Yep.
And actually, there's people. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say if you got. I'm going to say this. Say you have social anxiety and you really avoid going out, except shopping. We'll say. So I'm not talking to the person who only shops online and never leaves the house, but the people that maybe only leave the house once a week. There's those people, right?
Mhm.
Your sphere of influence doesn't mean the people like us that are sitting here listening here or watch this later. That's a part of it, right?
Yeah.
We have influence when um, we're shopping and we're just trying to get groceries and get out of there, and we lock eyes with somebody, or we see somebody, or we wave or say hi, or whatever we do. I was teasing my mom. My mom would be the type of person. I don't know if you're like this, Michelle. And I was teasing my mom in love. So I told her, I said, Mom, this is in love. But she's the type of person that if she was in Walmart, she would talk to everybody.
Oh, I'm like that. Yep.
Yeah. So my mom will tell people about me, and I'm right beside her. She's in her little scooter, and I go, Mom, don't talk to people about me, right? And I'm not antisocial. I'm kind of I'm an introvert extrovert. So I just but I'm glad she's her, because in a way the good of that, we're in a culture now where we, even if we're public, we're not public. Like we're kind of in our mind, especially locked in. And back to Michelle in 2015, you said you went across Canada.
Yep. Right.
Took courage. Took first a vision. Took courage, and then it took the steps to do it, right? And I'm going to flip that over to our wellness. It takes the first step. It takes some type of vision. You want to go back to Matthew McConaughey. You want to have a vision. Like for me, what do I want to look like? So I'm going to use me. So I had colon cancer. My I've got my gut is brutal because of several surgeries. I'm losing weight because I want to get surgery that'll fix my core. Like they'll basically have to mesh me one side to the other internally, so I don't have this huge hernia, right? So I have a vision or a goal, and the vision or goal takes steps. Now losing 80 pounds in total. I don't know if I've been that small since 40. I don't know. I don't remember being that small, but And that's me going to 220 again. So just being honest, I was 300, right? So that, even if I'm like, if like Michelle and I are different but the same, even though we don't plan, but we try to respond today, that's good. But I know Michelle has to plan for work and what she does, right? So part of it, we don't do a hardcore thing to be well, but we go, okay, I'm going to take what's one step? What's one step? So for me, it took me, I got a trainer. Said I couldn't afford it, but I could in the moment. And it was, he went through a routine. He didn't beat me up. He didn't push me. My mental view of a gym, I hate the gym. I'm telling you, in school, I could go play sports. I hated track and field. I hated that stuff. So I had a mental block, phobia-ish, in a different way, right? But it gave me hope. Like same as with Michelle, working with people, that all of a sudden you lose 5 pounds, or you're now eating right, or whatever different things. As soon as you have a bit of this victory, then that gives you almost gas to go, okay,
That's right.
I kind of like this. I like the me that feels better.
Yeah.
Right. So this whole thing with working through fear, because you're a spider. I'm Michelle and I won't mail you a picture of a spider, but underneath that, like Michelle's thing about, the taking swimming lessons and this, um, I would make the assumption that something triggered the fear to come back, and that's really common. Like that's not an uncommon thing, right? And so, how do we, how do we deal with that fear of flying? Does anybody? I don't know if anybody in the group has the fear of flying. Do you like flying, Michelle?
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm all right.
You okay
Actually,
once it's in the air?
when Tina and I flew back, that's one of our sisters. When we flew back from BC, you will fondly remember, because even before we got on the plane, when anything was going on that was a little bit disorganized or potentially stressful, I had her sing the Everything is Awesome song from the Lego movie. And Tom was so happy when I was singing it in Tim Hortons. He's not going
Oh
to
my
do
word!
that, but he was just smiling brightly. These are my sisters.
Oh yeah, I have videos. I can share the video on here. A big video, especially Tina. I won't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't do it for Tina. She wouldn't like that.
yeah, and you know what? Like those. Sometimes we think something is so silly. So the fear of flying is a big one. So
Yeah,
you use common sense. Common sense says this thing that weighs quadrillion pounds, whatever an airplane, like even though most of us don't understand aerodynamics and stuff, right? But for us, like majority of people, I'm one of those. I love flying and seeing everything and whatever, but the the taking off and the landing aren't my favorites.
right.
That's majority of people, even though I've flown a fair bit, like when I was younger, right?
Yeah.
But what do we do in that? Or I'm claustrophobic to a degree, which sounds weird. So being in a small plane, I probably couldn't wear a mask in a plane. Thank God I didn't fly, right? But I feel, even with a mask, I feel claustrophobic,
Hmm.
and and can uncover that, like dig into that a bit more, but don't need to now. But that's like when I recognize that in myself, then what do I do about it, right? Talking to somebody the other day about a fear of big dogs, because as a child they were bitten by a dog,
Oh,
and
yeah.
as we actually dug into it, it's one of the persons I work with. As they went back, because there's some different kind of treatments that we can do. So we did kind of a memory thing where they just kind of shut their eyes. We went back right to that, and they realized it wasn't a big dog. It was a little yappy dog of the neighbors, a little poodle. But this happened when it was 5 or 6, and so as they got older, the dog became bigger and bigger and bigger,
Right.
and it was probably more. Not saying they weren't bitten, but they realized that they go, "Oh, I don't think the neighbor." And I said, "Did the neighbor have a big dog? Can you picture ever like going outside and the neighbor big? Oh no." And so as we work through it, so it's interesting how our mind
Yeah.
tricks us. And so again, go back to self doubt. Um, if you want to be well, like I'm 62, I'm probably healthier on a lot of levels in the last 2 years than I was in my 40s. So there's hope for all of us,
Right.
right? And it may be like Michelle singing some silly song in Tim Hortons that we almost got kicked out, but we didn't. Um, Showing love, giving hugs, encouraging people. These things have been proven to show it actually helps us
Exactly.
when we. But selfishness, being selfish, is I'm gonna leave it for another time. But being fearful of not having enough and self, like all those things, there's they realize that there's triggers about that. There's nothing wrong with taking care of your bills and responsibilities. So don't hear that.
Of course.
But but there's something about being fearful what you won't have enough tomorrow, and we don't know what tomorrow brings. Like seriously, I don't know. Like, and I'm not a doomsday guy, but we have no idea. Like today up in BC, we got a couple feet of snow. Well, we got right, but so Michelle, with a little bit I'm sharing because we don't practice this, we just kind of set something up and go through it. So hearing more about fear and stuff like that, what are some of your final thoughts?
I think just, to because everybody's different. We all have our own ways, but I think just, looking inside and really owning the fears and just trying to just sort of think of, where they stemmed from. Are they realistic? When you're having those thoughts, am I lying to myself? Is what I'm saying even true? Is it realistic? It's interesting about the whole plane thing because if you look it up statistically, you're more likely to get in a car accident. Like, so, if you need to do that legwork just for that assurance voice in the background that everything's been going to be okay, talk to a friend, talk to somebody. Again, don't, everything on Facebook is not, official. But, like I watch a lot of TED Talks. I don't look at them as the voice of authority, but I'm getting another perspective. We're always gathering information. So I think, yeah, I would go that route. And of course, just because we talked about that topic today doesn't mean we're not going to revisit it. Or if you want to share on the page, then, share if you feel comfortable with it, of course. And the group is private. So go ahead and share. I know Ronnie did in our chat. Just, different things, how you're feeling, and it'll stay safe within that group. So I think just being honest and true with yourself, where you're at and where you want to be, I think that's the key for the win.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave with this final thought. So I'm going to use me as an example, right? So I'm when I look in the mirror. So this is another kind of tool. Tool's the wrong word. This is another kind of exercise I use, right? When I look in the mirror, and all I see some of the times is I see the problem with my hernia in my gut, right? I don't see the goodness in me. I don't see um, physically being healthier, even though people can see it, obviously, right? We tend to focus in, especially when I'm part of a few depression groups and that. And if you want information or stuff like that, I'm in the depression groups, not on social media at all. If you're interested, let me know, send me a message. I'll have to use an email to send you it. But in this group, it's so easy to think the worst of ourselves. So we don't see the 95% that's good. We see the 5% that needs work, and it becomes overwhelming, and then we just give up. And that's what happens a lot of times with addiction, with the guys that I've worked with, right, over dozens of years. But we're not looking at ourselves to have an honest reflection to be negative. We this is like a doctor or a mechanic looking at your body, your vehicle, and coming up with a plan, right? I have type 2 diabetes, right? So I don't like taking pills. I hate taking pills, by the way, as much as I hated the gym, but I'm over those two things now. But um, I'm learning that if I care about myself, I want to I want to I would rather risk in taking steps to do things that will benefit me than living in the shadows, right? And so if if you struggle with depression, anxiety, with fear, with some of the things that we're talking about, mental wellness, and it goes in again, it crosses over into all of our whole being, a holistic way, right? Feel free to talk to us, me and Michelle, privately. This group is to help all of us, including me and Michelle, change. It's giving us a bit of a personal, private platform where we're going to encourage each other. We're not like, there's things we need in the moment. Sometimes we need to have our foot massage. You like a foot massage, Michelle?
Not at all. No, thank you.
Neither
Pass.
does mom. Mom would freak out. So
Yeah, well,
so
apparently I get that from her.
so anyways, yeah. So that was a silliness. Singing a song. We there's things that we need to do in the moment. Like if you have surgery, like I've had a lot of surgery. If you have surgery, they're giving you morphine not to get you hooked for the rest of your life. They're giving you to eat to deal with the pain from surgery, right? It is a short-term solution. So short-term solutions are great. We need them. If you need to go zone out in front of the TV or do whatever, then go do it, right? Then like go do it. If you need to have a bowl of ice cream and I don't know, Michelle might correct me this, but these short-term wins and losses are they don't define us, but we want to be on a trajectory to be healthier mentally. And however we can help you, that's why we encourage you to invite your friends, because we may say something even by accident, probably more me than Michelle, but both of us, that triggers somebody and they go, you know what? I really appreciated that.
Oh, absolutely. That's right. Yeah.
What, like I said in the store, this thing of influence, I have heard more in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, people that were on the perimeter of my life in different situations, work or different things, that customers, people that I thought I didn't say anything special. Like people are aware. And when they see us being transparent and being kind, especially the stuff, we don't realize the effect it has on people. So, and I'm not saying it to put pressure on you. Oh crap! I've got people I'm influencing. That's not the thing. It's a byproduct.
That's right. Totally agree.
So,
Absolutely.
Michelle,
What's
12
that?
hours of meetings. 12 hours of meetings for you, almost done.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's interesting. As we're talking, I filled 3 post-its with other ideas of topics that we can do. So that's super cool. Yeah. Great conversation. Everybody, please feel free. You can start a new post on the page, or you can add on the chat for our Facebook Live here. And the only last thing I want to leave you with is, and I'm not going to share it and go over it, but I did put a chart on there. When we're feeling down, it's important that we're getting our vitamin D in, because we can't get it from the sun. And that is, when we're lacking vitamin D, it can create weak bones, osteoporosis, increased risk of infections. And of course, our immune system is very important. So when you're eating, and you're going to eat anyways, just think about adding some of those items that, and Tom is more of the chef than I am for sure. So one day we can talk more about food and the impact and healthy and cooking, because he would be very good at that. But I want you to just look at that and think about incorporating, some different fish and stuff into your diet. And I do have something I want to read for like our end quote, if you don't mind. So I really like this. What if you treated yourself like someone you're madly in love with? Imagine that you could do what you could do with all that positive energy. Stop beating yourself up for not being perfect and start loving yourself the way you would with someone you care about. And if my timing was right, it should have just populated on the page because I scheduled it. So there you go.
Oh, I
Chicken dinner.
love it. I'm not looking at it now, but
Yeah,
yeah,
look at it later. So
perfect. Well, go
yeah,
ahead.
I was going to say
Thank you.
until next week, we'll do it all again.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We'll post, Michelle and I'll talk, and we'll post by the end of this week, for the weekend or on the weekend, topic for next week. If you guys got some ideas for topics, please feel free to message us and we'll take it from there.
Perfect. Awesome. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.